Thanks so much for joining us for CBN News Today. I'm Ephraim Graham. He's become the face of Obamacare for comments he made about the stupidity of American voters. MIT economist Jonathan Gruber apologized for those words on Capitol Hill Tuesday, calling them glib and insulting. But he also insisted he was not qualified to comment on the political process. Heather Sells has the latest.
Both political parties had a special fury for Jonathan Gruber, all based on comments he made about Obamacare, which spread across the internet.
Call it the stupidity of the American voter or whatever. But basically, that was really, really critical to getting the thing to pass.
You made a series of troubling statements that were not only an insult to the American people, but revealed a pattern of intentional misleading the public about the true impact and nature of Obamacare.
As far as I can tell, we are here today to beat up on Jonathan Gruber for stupid, I mean absolutely stupid, comments he made over the past few years.
Gruber's comments, said Ranking Democratic Committee member Elijah Cummings, were a PR gift to Republicans wrapped with a bow.
Mr. Gruber, in a strange way, I kind of appreciate what you said in the videos because it seems to me for the first time someone came clean and told the truth.
Gruber, for his part, apologized repeatedly.
It's never appropriate to make oneself seem more important or smarter by demeaning others. I knew better, I know better, I'm embarrassed, and I'm sorry.
But Gruber also insisted he was unqualified to comment on the politics behind the legislation he helped to craft.
I'm not a politician, nor a political advisor.
Republicans weren't buying it, and they pressed him to detail just how much he was paid to help put together the president's health care plan.
What I'm asking you is how much money did the taxpayers, state or federal, pay you to have you then lie to them? That's what I want to know.
During some 5 hours on the hot seat, Gruber worked hard to promote the legislation he helped to create.
I behaved badly, and I'll have to live with that. But my own inexcusable arrogance is not a flaw in the Affordable Care Act.
Plenty of Americans have already found the flaws, however. The latest Gallup poll shows a record low 37% approve of Obamacare, while a record high 56% disapprove. It's one reason why the Democrats took such a beating in this year's midterm elections, why New York Democratic Senator Charles Schumer called passing Obamacare in 2010 a mistake, and why the political theater around Gruber just magnifies what has become a significant political problem for Democrats. Heather Sells, CBN News.
The House is taking its first look at a massive $1.1 trillion spending bill, and there's disappointment on both sides of the aisle. Conservatives are not happy because it fails to challenge the president's immigration orders, and Democrats feel it weakens the 2010 Dodd-Frank financial regulations. The more than 1,600-page measure was unveiled late Tuesday. A House vote could come Thursday, and with support from top leaders in both houses, the legislation is expected to pass. The Senate's controversial new CIA torture report says the spy agency's harsh interrogation methods did nothing to make America safer after the 9/11 terror attacks. But President Obama's own CIA director is still defending the now banned methods, saying they did prevent terror attacks and save lives. The tactics included sleep deprivation, waterboarding, and other harsh treatment of terrorism suspects. At least one Senate Republican is supporting the release of the report. Senator John McCain was tortured while in captivity during Vietnam War.
I know from personal experience that the abuse of prisoners will produce more bad than good intelligence. It's about who we were, who we are, and who we aspire to be.
Meanwhile, 3 previous CIA directors have created a website in response called CIASaveLives.com. And critics say the Senate Democrats' report is incomplete because they did not talk with everyone involved in the interrogation program. The Obama administration has been lax in enforcing deportation of undocumented immigrants, according to information from the government. Immigration officials released nearly 31,000 foreign criminals into the U.S., and the administration only repatriated less than 1% of the 12 million undocumented immigrants in the U.S. in the year leading up to this October. According to a federal document report by the Daily Caller, some critics like Alabama Republican Senator Jeff Sessions says the president has destroyed the immigration enforcement process in the U.S. Last night, President Obama defended his decision to bypass Congress and issue an executive order on immigration, but he faced tough questioning from Jorge Ramos, an anchor with the Univision network. Excuse me.
Even on March 2011, on a Univision town hall meeting, you told us, and I quote, "With respect to the notion that I can just suspend deportations through executive order, that's just not the case." Well, that's exactly what you did.
No.
Why did you change your mind?
No, because Jorge, at the time, and I can run back the tape on your questions and some of the questions in that town hall, the notion was that we could just stop deportations, period. And we can't do that. What I've said very clearly, consistently, is that we have to enforce our immigration laws, but that we have prosecutorial discretion given the limited resources, and we can't deport 11 million people.
The measure would grant deportation relief and work permits to millions of undocumented immigrants. Republicans want to use their authority over federal spending to force the president to roll back his decision. Typhoon Hagupit ripped through the eastern island of Samar in the Philippines this weekend. Thousands of homes were destroyed and at least 22 people were killed. Lucille Toulousan has more on how CBN's disaster relief is lending a helping hand to those in need.
Typhoon Hagupit lingered for 3 days in the Philippines, leaving at least 21 people dead and affecting 2 million people. Areas that were ravaged by the monster typhoon Haiyan last year were hit again by Hagupit. But because CBN disaster relief staff are still helping rebuild these areas, they were able to respond quickly to victims of Hagupit as donations of relief poured in.
They are the volunteers from the different local partners of CBN disaster relief, and they've been here even before the storm, repacking bags of rice to be distributed to the different affected areas.
Even within 24 hours after the storm hit, we have people on the ground feeding, giving relief, and doing medical missions.
One key factor for the low incidence of casualties and injuries is the preparedness of the people, whereby CBN disaster relief was very much a part of. In one community, CBN disaster relief staff led some 200 people to seek refuge in a cave. Typhoon survivors are grateful for the different CBN disaster relief projects that are very useful in the aftermath of the storm. Wells and water chlorinators have already been in place, and which now provide clean water for them. Recipients of the houses that CBN provided for the victims of Typhoon Haiyan are very happy that these houses withstood the strong winds and rains brought about by Hagupit. As more affected areas are identified in the days ahead, CBN Disaster Relief will continue to meet the needs of the typhoon survivors, especially that Christmas is just a few days away. Lucille Toulousan, CBN News, Manila.
A new billboard campaign promoting the Noah's Ark theme park in Kentucky has a message for those who oppose the project. Quote, "To all of our intolerant liberal friends, thank God you can't sink this ship." Answers in Genesis, the group behind the Project Ark Encounter, is moving forward with the project. The group is also answering questions about using taxpayer money for the park.
More than anything, we want to dispel some of the myths that people have about the Ark project, including the charge that taxpayer money is being used to build this Ark Encounter. No unwilling taxpayer is going to be involved in this tax incentive.
The theme park could get a sales tax refund if it does well. The Ark Encounter is scheduled to open in August of 2016. Coming up, the Dead Sea Scrolls go digital. See the amazing new app that gives you a first-hand look at the oldest surviving pages of the Bible. Russian scientists have found a huge asteroid nearly a quarter-mile in diameter. It is just the latest discovery of a space object that poses a threat to Earth someday, decades in the future. If the asteroid does hit the Earth, it could create an explosion 1,000 times greater than the meteor that hit Russia last year. That explosion caused damage miles away. Even though this latest asteroid discovery isn't an immediate threat, a Russian expert tells the Christian Science Monitor there is a bigger concern. There are about 100,000 potentially dangerous space objects near Earth, like asteroids and comets, but so far, only around 11,000 of them have been tracked and cataloged. So what do you get when you cross the Dead Sea Scrolls with today's digital age? An app in English that will help kids learn about the oldest written record of the Bible. Chris Mitchell brings us that story now from Jerusalem.
They call it DigQuest, a new app that introduces kids to archaeology with unique games featuring Israel's ancient treasures. The app brings the Bible to life for young kids through archaeology and incorporates the Dead Sea Scrolls. This is the conservation lab at the Israel Antiquities Authority, and this is the original scroll 2,000 years ago from the book of Genesis. And it says in Genesis 1:1, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." And that's the first puzzle young users get to solve.
The kids are actually making a puzzle, 2,000-year-old fragments, some from the Bible, some sectarian. They were found in the Qumran caves in the 40s.
Ulrich Rosengarten of the Israel Antiquities Authority helped come up with the app.
We try and make an introduction for kids, connecting them to the subject, since we feel it's one of the most important discoveries of the 20th century.
It transforms iPhones or iPads into an archaeological tool, allowing players to get a feel of uncovering mysteries from the past.
You could be interested in archaeology, you could be interested in the Bible, Christian, Jewish.
Right now, 2 digs are based on real-life excavations, including the Dead Sea Scrolls found in Qumran.
The scrolls were found fragmentary, and the scholars have been working for years in order to put them together and try and read what's on it.
The app mimics real-life technology, such as spectral imaging, which brightens the script, making it easier to read. This process helped make the Dead Sea Scrolls available online.
So after you complete the puzzle, you could scan it and read the content much better. Whoever downloads the app gets a collection box, and he could add every item he completes into his collection box.
With the world speeding forward in the high-tech age, is archaeology still important? Rosengarten says yes.
It's our history. It's our legacy. It's our, if we don't learn from what we had, how would we progress today?
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, the Israel Museum, Jerusalem.
Next, churches are supposed to be safe havens, but every now and then something bad happens. This pastor needed stitches after getting punched, and it reinforced the need to protect the pulpit. See what some groups are doing to keep you safe on Sunday. Two men are facing charges for setting 3 Delaware churches on fire last week. Fire officials say the men, Alex Harrington and Joseph Skolacek, set the fires over a 4-hour period. The churches targeted were Healing Hands Christian Church, Manship Chapel, and the Laws Mennonite Church. The damage to all 3 churches is estimated at about $86,000. No one was hurt in the fires. A church is meant to be a place to worship God and a sanctuary from the evil in the outside world. But today, churches in America are becoming targets for protest, predators, and violence, and even terrorists. Chuck Holton brings us this look at what churches can do to keep their members safe.
Of the many churches in Memphis, Tennessee, the largest is Bellevue Baptist Church. Founded in 1903, it's since grown in membership to almost 30,000 people. Andy Willis has been given the monumental job of keeping this large congregation safe.
So today, churches that speak the truth, that teach and preach true biblical principles, they draw a lot of attention because there are a lot of components of society today that don't want to hear that are absolutely against that. As a church security team, we have to be prepared for those kinds of situations to intervene and to protect the flock.
More than 100 paid and volunteer security staff respond to events every week.
Today, what we've got is we've got 2 undercovers. You can see the one there.
working quietly behind the scenes to safeguard their members.
Obviously, everybody has issues. Church is the place to bring your issues. In the security department, it's our job to have discernment to determine which of those issues are dangerous to others. And if we make that determination, what we do is we try to intervene in a meaningful way, point them at the right resources to help them.
One of the resources that helps Bellevue prepare is church security consultant Tim Miller.
It could be coming from here, right? Where else?
A former Secret Service agent, Miller says the threat is rising worldwide.
Violence against Christians is rampant around the world. It hasn't necessarily touched us at the level it has other places. But if we think we're immune from that, we're sadly mistaken. We will begin as a nation to experience that same level of violence, and actually that same methodology is coming to the United States. The question for us is, are we going to be prepared to address it? You're going into a place where broken people are going to be meeting every week, broken people like me. And we need to be mindful that that security that we're providing needs to be ministry-based, but it needs to be every bit as good.
The church I went to as a kid only had about 200 people, and we knew everybody that came through those doors. But when you've got a church this size, this is almost like a civic center. And it's hard to imagine the challenges that would go with trying to keep this many people safe and keep an eye on everybody at the same time.
A camera system that constantly monitors and records activities on campus is extremely important. They're not very expensive, and the thing that you get is you get the protection in a liability situation that you won't have if you don't have it.
The fact of the matter is security is mostly what you do not see. So that's where for places that have large gatherings of people, it's really important that they have a professional security team that's helping them to plan and organize, because no organization has unlimited resources.
Children's programs have to be especially vigilant. At Bellevue, a computerized system prints labels for each kid and even keeps track of food allergies and medications. A big part of church security is responding to routine medical emergencies. Bellevue's security team includes nurse and paramedic Shelley Trigg.
We work very closely with the security department. This is staffed with a first aid person here and with immediate response. We are trained to take the trauma bag with us. We have everything here from aspirin to a gunshot wound kit.
Heaven forbid that there should be a tragedy at your church, but if it does happen, one thing's for sure, that very soon thereafter there'll be satellite trucks and media standing out on your front lawn. Here's my advice. Don't keep them in the dark. They've got to do their job. Designate somebody to come out and give them the information you have. You don't have to give away names. You don't have to give away anything that you don't want to, but it is important that you have a plan for how to deal with the news.
The biggest thing that makes me cringe whenever I speak to other churches about security is they will say, we don't have security. We're just praying that nothing happens. So when I hear that, I think it's like my son saying to me, hey, I've got a big test tomorrow, but God already knows the grade I'm going to get, so I'm just going to leave it up to Him. It's important for us to understand that while we are to trust God, God has a big part for us to play in His plan.
At the end of the day, they need to marry faith with wisdom and action. It is time for Christians to become educated about what's going on in the world, to be prayerful, and then to be prepared. And those things will make a difference when it begins to occur.
From Memphis, Tennessee, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
And while the focus there is a church in Memphis, a rather large church, churches of all sizes do indeed need security. Stay with us. We're coming right back. And finally this hour, just in time for Christmas, a new exhibition bringing together some of the world's most beautiful, diverse art, concentrating on Mary, the mother of Jesus. Paul Strand visited Washington's National Museum of Women in the Arts to bring us this look.
In the book of Luke, the angel Gabriel brings good news that changes the world forever, saying to Mary, "Greetings, you who are highly favored, the Lord is with you." Now the mother of Jesus is being honored with a special art exhibit in our nation's capital. These works of art come from the Vatican, the Louvre, and the Uffizi in Florence, as well as private collections. Monsignor Timothy Verdon, a foremost scholar on Mary, said American audiences expect to see strong and complex women in their literature, shows, and films. But they may be surprised to find artists of the Middle Ages and Renaissance portray Mary that way.
There was a similar interest in the woman as a figure of courage, the woman as a figure of individuality, the woman as capable of a range of thought and of feeling that perhaps is never represented in a comparable way in men.
Many of the works show the early joy-filled days of Mary with her newborn son. Here she's called Madonna, which simply means Milady. On the other hand, several works concentrate on that hard, harsh day when Mary had to stand by helplessly as her Jesus was slain on a cross. All will be on display in Washington's National Museum of Women and the Arts till April 12th. Believers over the centuries have loved Mary not just because of who she is, but her faith and her words of wisdom. When we first see her in the scriptures, she's saying, "Be it unto me according to thy will." And she gives us probably the best advice of all about how to relate to Jesus. When she told a group of men in John 2, "Do whatever he tells you." Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from the National Museum of Women and the Arts.
Thank you, Paul. That is going to do it for CBN News today. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. Want to hear what you think about the stories you've seen here today? You can do it on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Make it a wonderful Wednesday, everybody.